Yes, people, what's happening? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV and welcome to another edition of the Chelsea Fan TV podcast. First things first, guys, make sure you smash the like, subscribe if you're new around here, and as always, leave your thoughts in the comments below. And the Premier League season is upon us. Chelsea hosting Man City this weekend. Big match to kick the season off. We've got loads of transfer drama as well. Joao Felix, Gallagher, Osimhen, loads of players that need to be moved on. Could there be any other potential secret names that haven't been revealed? Loads to dive into, as always, with Chelsea. So I'd like to be joined by Nina. Nina, great to have you back on, as always. Chelsea, never dull. Whilst, we've not maybe spent extravagant sums of money we spent in previous windows, we've still signed a fair few players, spent some half-decent money. What have you made of everything so far this summer? Let's start with the transfer window so far, and we'll dive into sort of specifics a bit later on. But what have you made of the business in general so far? There's still about a couple of weeks of the window left. Are you happy with what Chelsea have done so far?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, there's never really quiet with Chelsea, is there? And to be fair, going into this window, I didn't think we'd be too busy purely because I knew that we'd needed to offload a little bit, make some money, and, generating that pure profit off the players we could was kind of a priority. But we did sort of spend elsewhere. We did move some players on. Obviously, there's been a couple loans as well, and we've obviously come to learn that Leslie Ogachukwu now got himself a good loan. So there seems to be some sensible decisions being made, but at the same time, I'm not too sure about some of the players we've signed. I can't say I've known, an awful lot, especially about the youngsters that we've brought in. But, we've been kind of learning and understanding that this is kind of the direction that the club's choosing to go in, signing younger players. And it's good to see that we've made some pretty decent reinforcements in terms of Premier League proven, obviously in the name of Pedro Neto. I think that's probably been the most exciting one. It's probably the least risky in terms of he's obviously done it at Wolves. I think the only question mark with him is, can he stay fit? Can he be available? But in terms of kind of hitting the ground running, you kind of do hope that he can do that at Chelsea. We know that he can be, he bullied us at Stamford Bridge, didn't he, with that 4-2 loss in February. So yeah, that one's still kind of hurts a little bit, but hopefully he can be that kind of refreshment in our attack and he can provide some numbers. I do still worry about our striker situation a little bit. I know obviously Victor Osimhen's in the talks a little bit, and I'm sure that we'll get into that a little bit more. But we signed Mark Gill. I think he was a low risk signing. I think he's looked pretty decent as well in preseason. So I'm not looking at that one thinking I'm too worried. I think there's enough minutes there available with games for him to get a sniff next season, obviously with Jackson. But is that enough? I worry, because I don't really think Nkunku would be a striker option. I don't really want him to be a striker option. And then you look at the false nine situation. Is that really great? So it could be a situation where we are counting on our wingers, perhaps like last season we did, to get us those numbers. But I do think that with the amount of games we have, I think it is important to have a target man. It's important to offload responsibility off Nicholas Jackson as well. Mark Gill is way too young to be handed that responsibility. So I think that's maybe my only concern with the transfer window. I'm not too sure about our defence either, in all honesty, but we've done more than I expected.
If only we had someone that was decent, that was training away from the first team that we could use. Maybe that would be helpful. But Chalobah's obviously surplus to requirements. When you see us defending the way we do, makes you sort of question what we're doing in that regard. Yeah. But look, I think for me the window, Neto's definitely perked it up a little bit. Before that signing come in, I was like, I'm not so sure about this. I'm not saying that these guys can't go on and become good players, and I understand that constantly going for big names is not maybe the best transfer strategy. And, I'm fully aware as well that, the free spending of the previous windows, that's not going to last forever. That wasn't going to continue. I think every signing we've made, even Pedro Neto to a degree, opportunistic. Like you say the young kid from Barcelona, it's an opportunity. It's 5 million quid. It's win-win. Right. He's going to be sold for a profit anyway, regardless of what he does. But then other ones, Kellyman was a PSR transfer. I'll be honest, I don't think he's ever going to play for us. I'll be real. I don't think he's going to play for us ever. And then Dewsbury Hall comes in, knows the system, kind of maybe a smart signing, probably cheaper than the market value.
Do you see him being a first teamer? Like, there's something about Dewsbury Hall, and I know obviously he's played under Maresca and he supposedly fits the system, but I don't know, maybe it's early days. I don't really know where does he play and where does he kind of
He'll play as a number 8. He'll play as a number 8. I'm not saying he's going to be I'm not going to say he's going to be an automatic starter, but with the amount of games we've got, like he will play. He will definitely play, and I think he'll do better than what people think. I think it's so important to have players that know the system. Like I think nowadays, like moving like transfers, everyone needs to be sort of blinded by big names. Like, don't get me wrong, it's exciting when you're linked with a big name, but ultimately, I think for me, profiles are so much more important than names. Like, I'd rather sacrifice a little bit of ability if the profile suits the team better and the player suits the system, rather than just going for a big name and hoping it's going to work out and trying to get it to fit. So, like, I mean, someone like Renato Vega, never heard of him before we signed him. Again, we're taking a lot of risks with transfers. Every transfer is a risk, but Neto's definitely perked things up a little bit. But I'll be honest, I'm still a bit underwhelmed by the window. If we get an Osimhen through the door, that's a big game changer. And then that suddenly you sort of think, actually, do you know what? That's a decent window. You sign Pedro Neto, you sign Victor Osimhen. Suddenly you're thinking, right, okay, we've got something decent here. I don't worry about us going forward, other than the fact that I'm just still not sure we've got that kind of clinical guy in the box. I think the midfield, based on the preseason, looks a lot better balanced. I don't think we're going to be getting run through in midfield like we were on numerous occasions last season. I don't worry about the fullbacks. I think Cucurella is going to be great for us. I think Reece James, Gusto. I don't worry about that.
It's the centre backs.
Defensively is where I'm concerned. We don't lack quality from an individual standpoint, but for whatever reason, as a partnership, whoever it is, for me in the preseason, no one's made a convincing case that they should be the starting pair. With Badiashil's, I swear Badiashil's have we got a different player from the one that we signed? Like, when he first come in, he was brilliant.
He was our best player, easily.
He was so good. Had that long-term injury at the back end of that season. Last season, he was coming back into things, making so many mistakes. Pre-season, he's not looked great. You just sort of think, what's happened to this guy? I don't see Disasi featuring much. Tosin, I think, not a weird signing, but he's not going to be a first choice. Again, opportunity because he was free. Defensively, I do worry about us, particularly in transitions. Like, it's scary how many goals we conceded on transitions in the preseason. And yeah, defensively last season we were poor as well, because shipped a club record number of goals, and right now it doesn't look like defensively we've improved. Now, it's a new way of playing from a defensive standpoint. It's going to take a little bit of time, but my major concern with that is that we're still conceding the same types of goals, right? We're making a lot of individual mistakes, and we're conceding the same types of goal that we've been conceding for the past few seasons, and we are still looking vulnerable every time we concede. Numerous games in pre-season. How many times did we see it last season? Conceded, within the next 5-10 minutes, bang, conceded again. Happened numerous times on pre-season as well. So, that would be my concern defensively. Do I think we're going to go into the market for another centre-back? No, I don't, because who do you go and get for starters? And you'd have to go and sign a starting centre-back. And with 2 weeks left in the window, that's pretty tough. But in terms of the transfers that we might still be doing, let's start with Victor Osimhen, someone that it almost feels like it's destined to be. Sort of like we've been linked with him for so long, and then, we were heavy favourites at the start of the summer. Then it gets put out there that, Chelsea aren't pursuing it now. Deal's too expensive. That £113 million release clause, obviously his wages, which he's refusing to drop. And then that went quiet for a number of months, linked with numerous other names. And then suddenly it's come back into the fold. And now there's a real strong possibility. Maybe it's going to be involved as part of the Lukaku deal. Chelsea originally wanted a loan. Napoli aren't stupid. They're not going to loan him out unless there's an obligation, some sort of permanency to the deal. I was never massively for Osimhen. It wouldn't have been my first choice, but I think now with a couple of weeks left in the window, we need someone. And to be honest, he's the best striker we're going to be able to sign. There isn't a better striker on the market that we could be able to sign. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on Osimhen, and how do you see this one panning out? Like, part of me thinks, we're destined to do it. Another part of me thinks, could we be going down the Michael Olise route, or just in negotiations for weeks and weeks and weeks? We seem like we're the front runners, and then bang, someone comes in last minute, and we've lost him.
Yeah, I think now is probably the only time it's been perhaps the most feasible, if you know what I mean, in terms of, because now there is this whole talk about it being a swap deal, and Romelu Lukaku's on the table, and we're in a better position and standpoint in the fact that they've got something that they want, we've got something that we could want potentially as well, and obviously there's that other kind of fee to be agreed, and we know that there's another player on our behalf that would probably be included in that deal. So I think in terms of affordability, it's probably the most affordable, or perhaps the most realistic in terms of getting it over the line now than it has been, because previous windows he's been very heavily high price, and it's always kind of been the, will you pay that 120 million or 100 million for Victor Osimhen? And like you say, in terms of it being destined, like every window it gets thrown in there, whether it's at the start, whether it's somewhere like halfway through or at the end, there's always that kind of little whisper of Victor Osimhen. And now it just kind of seems that, again, we're approaching kind of the end of this window. It seems that we are in serious talks, and obviously Chelsea are busy because the whole Conor Gallagher and the Joao Felix and the whole thing with Atletico isn't still sorted. And if we are working on this Victor Osimhen thing, it could potentially explain why maybe the Samuel Omorodion deal didn't go through, and maybe Chelsea have had this in the works now for a little bit. Look, I'm not going to be gutted and disappointed and devastated if Victor Osimhen doesn't sign for us. However, I'm also going to be quite thrilled if he does, because I think, kind of going back to what I said earlier, the striker situation still has not really been addressed in terms of a clinical out-and-out number 9. And you said, previously we've gone for the big names, it hasn't worked out, we've gone down the other route, we've gone for the less known kind of potential what ifs. But I think with Chelsea's serious targets this season, where we're going to be competing in Europe this year, regardless whether it's just Conference League, it's still Europe. That means more games on the table. We're fighting to get back into a Champions League spot. I think you're going to need to be really, really clinical. And I think, again, yes, it's a what if, but you've got a little bit more security, and there's a little bit more CV there to back up, because he's done it now for a few seasons at Napoli. And also, we talk about worrying about our defence. I think we're going to be needing to score goals if we're going to continue to leak goals as we are. And if we strengthen that up top, and you still look back to last season, I can tell you we would have got a lot more points and we would have won a lot more games had there just been that guy in the box. At times there really wasn't. We're so lucky that Cole Palmer hit the numbers he did, because if he hadn't taken him out the equation, we still would have been talking about Chelsea not buying a striker being the biggest problem last season. And we can't keep just sort of chucking it over to the next window and the next window. If we can really address this now, and if you're splashing the cash anyway for transfers and people you're loaning out, kind of looking for the future, we still really do need to kind of address the here and now, the present day. So it could be worth doing, get it over the line if it means that we've got that security in the box. Again, you look at the FA Cup semi-final, I can't keep sort of going back to that, where Jackson wasn't clinical in that game. If you're talking to someone a little bit more experienced, you're talking about potentially having a trophy last season. I know it's kind of a big difference there, and it's a big what if, but it's so, so important. And you can't keep relying on those youngsters when you've got targets to hit here and now. I understand the project for the future, but we truly do need those numbers. And frankly, it's not fair to think and expect Palmer to be carrying us through with those goals and assists next season as well. So I think a striker and someone like Victor Osimhen could be pretty beneficial, yeah.
I mean, we've needed a striker for 18 months now. Everyone's known that. It's the one position on the pitch that I think you can't take shortcuts on. Look at all the good teams. They've got someone at the top end of the pitch that is a joke. I mean, Kane at Bayern, Haaland at City, Madrid have got Mbappe. Do you know what I'm like top teams have got a top goal scorer in their side. And I'm not saying that's the be all and end all, but you need it, and that's something we've been missing for a long time. Look, don't get me wrong, I like Nicholas Jackson. I think he's good. You know, if he improves his finishing, there's a 20 goals a season striker. That he got 14 last season. Look how many chances he missed. Like, there's 20 plus goals in him. If he brushes up, we create enough chances. But you know, we can't go into the season with Jackson, the Barcelona kid, and then Nkunku as a third option for the middle. Like, we can't do that. We have to get someone. And right now, for me, it is Osimhen or bust. You know, we have to do what we have to get him. Do you think it's worth paying him what he wants? Like, he's refusing. It's well out of the supposed structure. For me, the only way that it would work is take a base salary, which is in line with the structure, and then heavily incentivize it so that if he hits individual targets, team targets, etc., you can earn what you were earning at Napoli. But for him to come in and give him straight away considerably more than everyone else, that not only puts a load of pressure on him. If he's not performing, like, everyone's human, you're going to be sitting in the dressing room thinking, I'm doing the business. How the fuck is this guy on like twice as much money than me and he's not doing it? So do you think Chelsea should be paying him that salary? Because that's the big problem on this deal, right? Is that we've got something that no one else has got. They want Lukaku. This should be very workable. What's against us is someone like a PSG will pay those wages, no problem. They just got to agree a fee, which is a bigger stumbling block. You know, other certain teams won't have an issue paying those wages. The wages is the big problem for us. Do you think, you know, having worked so hard to get everything in place with the wage structure, having supposedly pulled out of it Michael Elise for those reasons, would you pay Osimhen his salary that he's on now straight off the bat?
No, I wouldn't. And that would be my main consideration as well, because exactly the words that you said there, we're kind of undoing everything we've been trying to implement in the last kind of couple years now with the wage structure, etc. And it means you are kind of, yes, could be desperate, but then again, do you go against all those principles? But I think what we've kind of now put in place, and, you know, perhaps giving him that base salary and then sort of saying, you know, if you perform, you get more. And that's what we've seen, you know, Cole Palmer getting his contract, you know, his wages increasing based off how he performed last season. Equally, you know, Jackson, there'll be other players. If you perform, great, you know, you'll be rewarded for that. And I think that's really the whole kind of new attitude, or perhaps the new value that's been added to the club as well, which is a good thing. So I think that it benefits both the club and the player if that's the case, because, you know, Osimhen, come produce, hit the numbers you do out there, and then perhaps you get rewarded for it. But I don't agree that we should hand him out these extortionate wages and kind of go against everything. I think it doesn't really send out a good message to the other players as well. Like you said, it is pretty crap, isn't it, if this new guy arrives and he's instantly on these extortionate wages.
If it was an Mbappe or something, fair enough. Someone that's like a genuine game changer is going to win you games most weeks. I'm not saying Osimhen couldn't do that, but
it's a bigger what if, isn't it? Because
it's definitely a bigger what if. This one's going to rumble on pretty close to the end of the window, I'd imagine. The closer it gets to the end of the window, both sides are going to have to concede something here.
Yeah, for sure.
Both sides are probably going to end up taking something that they probably didn't want. Chelsea probably going to have to accept a little bit less than they were looking for Lukaku, and Napoli are probably going to have to.
You know what? Get it done. I don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that fussed on. Look, don't get me wrong. Don't say give Lukaku away for like 15 million or something. But ultimately, like, if it's a case of if it's 38 million pound exit clause, and they want to give 30, for example, I think
they want to give like 26 or 7.
Yeah, but if they could come up to 30, right, just do it. I know it's 8 million less than what we're looking for, but more importantly than a transfer fee, get those wages off the books. Like that's the big thing. So, like, I've got no doubt Lukaku will be sold this window. I'm just not sure if Osimhen comes to us. I think Lukaku will definitely be gone. Lukaku will join Napoli for sure. I just don't know if it's going to be as part of Osimhen coming this way or in a separate deal. I just don't want us to go through all this hassle, all this negotiations, all these, or will he, won't he? And then we just end up not getting him, or, you know, someone else signs him and we just wasted so long trying to get someone, and then by that point it's too late to go and bring anyone else in, and we're putting ourselves in a really difficult situation. But only time will tell whether Osimhen makes his move to Chelsea. But as I said, it does feel inevitable, but there's also a lot of question marks over it. and some big decisions to be
I
made.
mean, we don't want to wait till he's 30.
No, it's 24, isn't it? That's a long way to wait. Or it might be 25. I don't know. But it's a long way to
25.
wait there. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But for me, it's a standout choice. We are not going to be able to sign a better striker.
Absolutely not.
So we need to somehow get this done and just don't fuck it up, basically, would be the message. Talking of fuck ups, Conor Gallagher, Joao Felix, Atletico Madrid, Chelsea. It's a massive mess. I'm not blaming Chelsea entirely on this at all. Both parties are equally to blame here. But this is a shambles. Like Gallagher, obviously we don't need to get too stuck into that. But, he agrees to go. Okay, probably regretfully, but he understands that for his footballing career, he needs to leave. The club have made it clear, whether you agree or disagree, that he's not part of the plans. Fee agreed with Atletico. He agrees terms on a 5-year contract. He flew out to Madrid, done his medical. He was even pictured in the stadium or whatever on Atletico's socials. He'd been in Madrid since last Thursday. And then Sunday night comes, the Samuel Morodion deal collapses, and then everything's up in the air. And now Gallagher's back in London, waiting for some sort of resolution to be reached. My thing on this is, like, why are we in a position where we are seemingly doing business, right, where we have to buy someone off the other team in order for this sale to go through? Why have we found ourselves in that situation? Like, I know Atletico have signed, obviously, Julian Alvarez is a big outlay, but that's not our problem. You should have thought about that. Why are we being almost held over a barrel, in a sense, that we're not buying Gallagher from you unless you buy Joao Felix from us? I mean, it was going to be already on for whatever you want to believe. I think the series of events around that one are a bit suspicious. I think it's too much of a coincidence that Jorge Mendes was in London on Sunday at Stamford Bridge because he represents Pedro Neto. Then Sunday night, suddenly that Almirodion deal falls through. He also represents Joao Felix. Oh, wow. Suddenly we're in talks to sign Felix. I just think it's a bit of a coincidence. I think that shit don't make sense. But then on the Felix thing, actually, no, first, Gallagher, thoughts on that? That just the whole situation, not about him going and what, but just the whole situation he finds himself in. I just think, whether people agree or disagree, Chelsea owe it to him to get this move sorted out. He's accepted to go. Fees agreed. He's making a big move, a big change in his life. Sort it out. Like, it's a mess. It's not Chelsea's fault entirely, but guys, come on, sort this shit out.
Yeah, it's shambles, isn't it? I don't think we'll be doing business with Atletico anytime soon.
No, absolutely not. Once this summer's done, that'll be it. There's no way we're doing any more business with them.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. It's shambles. Just get the move done. Obviously, to be fair, we're kind of in a good position because Atletico are very adamant and very determined to sign Gallagher. So it means that we kind of do at least have a bit of encouragement that this deal, will be tidy, it will go through. And obviously, it's unfair, like, on the player. He's been out there, he's come back, he's kind of been with the exiled lot, as we call them at Chelsea, not training with the first team. And I'm sure that, he kind of just wants this all done and dusted. But I think in regards to the Samuel Morodion deal, I think because that collapsed, it was kind of a case of, well, we need to generate money now as well. It is in Atletico's best interest. They, of course, would want to move Joao Felix on. I mean, apart from Chelsea, what other club could he possibly go to? They obviously
wants him.
Exactly, that's the thing. So they're in a good position to negotiate this one because we want the move done with Gallagher. They want him offloaded, gone. I think he is on quite high wages as well, and he's not really going to play at Atletico again, is he? It's obviously in the player's best interest too to move. So it's kind of a situation where both clubs really need this to go through and to kind of make it that Felix comes to Chelsea so that Gallagher can go through because Atletico demand it. And Chelsea, come on, let's be real. Felix was never a target, not this window, not to be signed after he was on loan ever, really. It's just the situation that this is now where we find ourselves. We kind of have to. We've really been pushed into this corner because of how the whole situation's gone about. And, whether or not this has got to do something with us working on a different striker situation for that deal to collapse. Again, pretty unfair on the player as well, because he was here in London, wasn't he? And he's gone back. But I think Atletico have played their cards really well here if this whole thing with Felix has now kind of encouraged us really to bring him in just to get the Gallagher deal sorted, because again, who else is Gallagher going to go to? This is really not in our interest, or it doesn't benefit us in any way. So I think this is quite good on Atletico's behalf. It's quite clever. But really, what do we do with Felix? I don't really want him at Chelsea. I wouldn't really be opposed to it. But at the same time, I think we've got enough players of that kind of profile, enough players that can do the cool little bits and bobs, and we're hoping will produce something. Unless you're going to move on one of our wingers, particularly maybe on the left, which I'm not too sure. We've seen Madueke kind of probably be the winger that has the most market at the moment for him, but I don't really want Madueke leaving. So do you look at, your Mudryks and Sterlings? But it's just a situation where we're going to have to accommodate just to get this deal done. And I think that we are partly at fault with how business has been handled, and it probably never would have gotten to a situation where Felix is even in the talks with this deal if it had been settled tidily as it should have been.
Yeah, my concern, my issue with the Felix thing, right, is one, we don't need him. Okay, we don't. Secondly, we had an opportunity to sign a player from Atletico. We didn't choose him. We chose Almirola instead. Thirdly, he's been available all summer, right? Pochettino vetoed signing him last summer, fine. Reports saying, the board really like him. Poch's been gone all summer. Felix has been there all summer. You have an opportunity to sign you have an opportunity to sign a player from Atletico Madrid. You still don't choose him. And now it almost feels like because we've been reckless with our spending over the years, it feels like we're in a situation now where we're so desperate for a pure profit sale in Gallagher that we're considering spending 40, 50 million quid on someone we don't even want in order to facilitate a player sale. It's madness. It is honestly madness. Like, I cannot get my head around it. There's been zero interest in him all summer. Not one single report with Chelsea and Felix together. And look, I get it. He's a talented boy, sure. He's 24. He scored 4 goals in 20 appearances. People were saying he had a good loan with us. It was only looked good because we had to watch Mount and Havertz be dreadful that year. That's why it looked good, because anyone that did a basic bit of attacking play, we suddenly were amazed by it because we've been watching such horrific play from the likes of those guys.
So fair play to him. He did lighten it up a little bit that season.
Yeah, he did. But Felix is one of those, right, where the reality, the thought of him is much better than the reality. 100%. And there's too many people that will overlook things that actually matter, i.e. end product, for aesthetics. And Felix sums up the modern day fan, is that like they don't care about output or effectiveness on the team. Oh, he looks nice on the eye, does a few nice things with the ball, let's have him. It's nonsense. We don't need him. Where's he going to play? We never wanted him in the first place. And we might potentially buy him in order to facilitate another deal. Look, if he ends up coming, I'll support him, of course. But the whole scenario and the whole basis of doing this deal is just an utter nonsense, to be perfectly honest. And, people can agree or disagree, that's fine. But that's what it is. It's a shambles that we're having to potentially buy someone in order to complete a player sale. I just don't understand how we keep getting ourselves in these situations. But I mean, look, I hope he doesn't come, but the reality is he probably is going to come. And it's just another player in that area which we do not need. Like, we seem to be buying players for, like, Neto, fine. I think we needed another wing option. No one else is saying that we needed any further attacking options other than a striker. So why are you then trying to buy someone who?
This is exactly what we've been doing, isn't it, Charlie? Like, this is every window. It's like, right, we need a striker. Bam, in comes a winger. And then it's like, okay, I get it. But then, we've got so many now, and there's still those players that we're still waiting on an improvement, on a development, on output, and we've kind of given them this season. And now you're bringing in another one that is kind of like, where do you fit him in? And it's so obvious that it's not part of the plans. It never was, never will be. It's just a kind of situation, like you say, that we've kind of been pushed into this corner for it to now be part of the deal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why, and this might be a simplistic view, but if Atletico desperately need to sell someone in order to finance Gallagher, why can't we just loan him to them with an obligation to buy? So the move just becomes permanent at the end of next season. Like, why can't we just do that?
Because they get someone off their wage books. Like, Felix is good for them to be offloaded.
No, what I mean is, why can't we loan them Gallagher with an obligation to buy? Like, you don't have to spend that money now, but just loan him, make it a really simple, plays like 10 games, and that deal becomes permanent.
We
He's
probably
already
don't
agreed.
want that
He's
though.
already agreed the five-year deal with the club. So why couldn't we do something like that? I don't understand why we couldn't do something like that. But like if the Gallagher deal falls through, it is a complete shambles. And I honestly wouldn't rule out if it does fall through. I don't think he goes anywhere else. I reckon he ends up signing the 2+1 at Chelsea that was on the table, and we revisit it all again next summer. But hopefully, for his sake and just for this whole saga and this whole mess, I hope he just goes to Atletico and can just draw a line under all of this. We don't need Gallagher in the squad and then another year of will he, won't he, sort of nonsense. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, there's still a lot of pieces of the puzzle to fall into place. Chelsea will probably make 2 more signings max. I think Felix and Osimhen are the obvious ones. I still wouldn't rule out a potential move maybe for Ivan Toney. The later that gets in the window, he's got a year left on his contract. You could try a sort of a cheeky loan with an obligation just to test Brentford's resolve. You never know. I wouldn't be surprised if in the last week of the window maybe some teams would have a look at Ivan Toney. Maybe Chelsea, if the Victor Osimhen deal is proving too complicated to do. I don't think that's one that can be definitely ruled out. But yeah, messy transfer situations all round. In terms of outgoings, though, a lot's been made of the squad size. It's massive. Like, I'll be concerned if it's still this big come the end of the window. But right now, I think it's a lot of just sort of kind of like, oh, that's just like cheap point scoring at Chelsea. You look at the squad size, blah, blah, blah.
The memes are funny, though.
Yeah, they are, to be fair. But I'm a little bit concerned at how slow the outgoings have been. Like, we're 2 weeks away from the window, and the only notable sales have been Martson and Hutchinson, and they were done near the beginning of the window. There are so many players we still need to move out. How concerned are you by how slow the outgoings have been? Because a lot of players need to go.
Yeah, concerning. I think it's probably mostly been a situation of who do you loan out that's been kind of the biggest question this summer, because like you say, there's a lot of players that you know have shown good potential last season but could benefit with a loan, and there is those sort of players that we've now bought in, and it's like, well, do they play first team football? Do you loan them out? Are they bench squad options? Like, what are they? And I think that you can say that to an extent there has been a bit of a scattergun approach with the players that we kind of just suddenly kept bringing in, and what was really the plan with the outgoings and who actually goes. It makes me think a little bit that perhaps the whole vision for this summer transfer window has been a little bit random, a little bit spontaneous, which is bizarre to think for a club of our size. But I've truly just wondered with, particularly the incomings, okay, are you a first teamer? Are you going to be loaned out? Are you a squad player? And I don't think the club's really figured it out very much. I think it might be a case that, we see quite a lot of loans. There might be some last minute sales, but, time's ticking. And like you say, who kind of goes? I think you're potentially looking at, I don't know, Sterling. Is he an option to be sold kind of very last minute on, or does he stay?
No one's going to pay. No one's going to pay a decent
what's the whole
fee for him.
Juventus situation saying?
What?
So I know he was linked to Juve, wasn't he?
Or that was subsequently, like, people were saying there was actually no truth in that. I think what we're looking at, Chukwuemeka is one I think that could definitely be sold. But you're looking at obviously Lukaku, Kepa, Broja, Gallagher, Chalobah, Petrovic, maybe a 6th one there. But the problem we're going to have is obviously, as you agree with the youngsters and that, loans, who gets the limited international loan spots, then finding a good domestic loan where the player's going to play. Too many times last season we picked shit options and we had to
to Southampton seems sensible.
That's a very good one. I'm pleased with that. Problem that Chelsea are going to have, is that clubs know that we're looking to sell a number of players. Time's running out, so they're going to go in with low ball offers and maybe make loan offers for players we're looking to sell because they know we're desperate to get rid. That's the problem. That weakens our position a little bit because clubs know we're looking to get rid of players and therefore know that the closer we get to the end of the window and these guys still aren't gone, we're maybe going to accept loan deals for players we wanted to sell, and we're going to be accepting lesser fees for players just in order to get rid of them. So look, we're good at selling players for sure, but I suspect
We
that a
were
lot
good
of
last summer
yeah,
at the start. We did it very quickly,
yeah,
very
and
promptly.
I suspect a lot of players that leave between now and the end of the window, we're probably going to get less money than we were wanting to get, purely because clubs know that we're desperate to sell. We need to offload, and we're going to end up accepting slightly lesser deals than we would have preferably wanted. But that's just obviously part of it. Unfortunately for us, is that we've bought a lot of players, and like we've left it late with outgoings, and clubs know you're desperate. So I don't think we'll struggle to get rid of players. I just don't think we're going to get as good a deals as we perhaps would have liked to have got, which it's just the way it goes. Ultimately, as long as we can get these players off the books, get some wages off the books, get some money back into the football club, that's the most important thing for me. But looking ahead to the season, pre-season was obviously mixed. The results wise, it wasn't the best. We had 1 win out of 6 games, but it's not about the results. Some positives for sure. On an individual basis, the likes of Lavia, Nkunku, Gusto was very good as well. Like some standout performances from those guys. Clear style of play, clear identity starting to form, which is a positive. Players getting more comfortable with the system. But of course, there were some negatives. You know, there's going to take time to get used to a new way of playing. A lot of this squad have never played in this way before, so it is going to take time. Heading into the new season, how are you feeling about Chelsea heading into the season? Where do you think we're at? Because after the Inter game, I was sort of thinking that's really our best display of pre-season, but I'm still unsure how ready we actually are for the season.
Me too. I think unanimously we can all agree. And I think Chelsea is probably one of the hardest teams to predict purely now because for the last 2 years it's been so unpredictable, it's been so turbulent, it's been so ambiguous that you just continue to kind of hope for the best and try and go into the season a bit more optimistic, because what other choice and really what other kind of thoughts should we have? I mean, it's hard to say. Pre-season last season looked really good with our new manager, and then we struggled in the league, so it's hard to kind of take this pre-season under Maresca and kind of see how it sort of predict rather how it will play out into the season. I think perhaps one good thing is that there are other clubs that are kind of transitioning, other clubs that are working under a new manager that have new signings to integrate, that you do kind of say, okay, well, perhaps Chelsea have got a good chance here, but I don't really know. You know, we could finish in the top 4, we could finish 10th again. It's so hard to say, and I think it's something that will kind of become a little bit more clearer with as the season goes by. But then can you really be sure? Because I didn't think we'd finish sixth in March last season, and that just tells you that we've been so unpredictable and it's been so up and down that it's just really hard to say and predict. But purely from a fan perspective, I'm excited to, start going down to Stamford Bridge again. I'm excited for the games. I'm excited to see certain new players at the Bridge. Pedro Neto excites me. I'm really excited to see him in a Chelsea shirt, see what he gets up to. And I think there is a lot to be optimistic about, but there is also a lot to be worried about. Like I said, I think purely watching pre-season, I'd say defense is our biggest kind of concern, and particularly when we're going to be playing this kind of possession-based football, be very dominant in possession, you do worry about the teams that are going to sit back and hit us on transition. It's very easy to score against us that way if we will be defending as we have been. At times it literally looked so easy. It looked like we had 2 man back defending, and that is a real concern, especially when you look at how many Premier League sides have strengthened their front lines. It is really a tough job for some of our youngsters, and I think the fact that we don't really know our best centre-back duos yet is also something that you don't really feel too secure with. We're going in to play the champions, the best team pretty much in the world on our first game, and you worry about our defence. It's not a great look, so I think that's probably my biggest worry for that game in particular. But with the season, I'm excited. Conference League, bring it on. At least we get to experience something new. We get to play against some teams we never have been. Stamford Bridge gets some new visitors. So yeah, what's there to not really look forward to? I think it will be fun to start with, at least.
No, I think look, it's unexpected. We don't really know what to expect. We could surprise a lot of people. Like you, honestly think, we could finish third or fourth, or equally, we could come sixth or seventh. There's still a lot of scope for variability with this team. Like the quality is there, but again, are we going to finally find that level of consistency, or are we going to be one of those teams that could beat your Man Cities and beat your Liverpools, but then it's going to lose to like a Leicester, a Southampton, and an Ipswich? Like,
very typical.
Like, is that the sort of side that we're still going to be? I don't really think we can make any accurate assessments of what this season's going to be like, or what the team is going to be like, until we're about 5 or 6 games into the season minimum. I don't think we've learned enough in pre-season to suggest this is exactly what Chelsea are going to be like. So it is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what he decides is his best starting 11. I don't know what the best starting 11 is.
I don't know who's starting on against City on Sunday. I can tell you.
It's quite a difficult one to think about. I mean, look, City have not done much business this summer. Oscar Bob being out injured is a blow for them, a big plus for us. This could be a good time to play City. I think you want to play the bigger teams near the start of the season because there's no form to go off, and it's a bit more of a level playing field. And
it is a Stamford Bridge, I suppose that's a good thing.
Well. And we've done very well against City last season. We played them 3 times. We've got the two draws in the league, which we probably arguably should have won both those games. And we probably should have beaten them in the FA Cup semi-final as well, but it's all ifs and buts. We didn't do it. So, we can cause them problems. In terms of who's going to start, I think you can pick the back 4. I think that's pretty obvious. Sanchez is going to be in goal. Regrettably, it'll be Gusto right back because James is suspended. Colwell and Fofana will be the starting centre-back pairing. Cucurella will play at left-back. Then it's from that point onwards where there's decisions to make. For me personally, Romeo Lavia should be starting as the deepest lying midfielder. I think he's had a brilliant pre-season. He's the only guy that started every game. I think Nkunku might have. No, he's the only one that started every game. And from there, you're looking at, well, do we go Lavia, Enzo, Caicedo? Do you play Dewsbury Hall? Are all these guys ready to start? I'd probably go Lavia, Enzo, Caicedo. Jackson's not ready to start through the middle. Literally played, 20 minutes against Inter. His only minutes of pre-season. He's been injured beforehand. I think it's a big risk to start him. So you're thinking, right, okay, I think it's too much to put Guiu through the middle, despite him impressing. So I reckon Nkunku starts as the 9. And then Palmer will play somewhere. And then Madueke maybe plays somewhere as well. Or Mudryk plays. Or I don't know. Like there's a lot. We've got options though. Like this is what people don't realize is that when you actually have the players fit, which is a bit of a rarity for us, you sort of realize, do you know what? We actually have got some half decent options. Like last season makes you forget that we have got a half decent squad and there are good options and decisions to be made, particularly 100%. in those attacking areas. But yeah, I couldn't really tell you what Chelsea's best team is right now. And I think if you asked about 10 fans,
they tell you different.
You probably get multiple different lineups.
Yeah,
which is a bit of a problem in itself as well. So I don't know what to expect on Sunday. I think we'll have a lot of the ball.
Charlie, you know what though? Neither does Pep. Does Pep. So
no, he probably doesn't know what to expect. I think we'll have a lot of the ball. We'll create a lot of chances. But I think the 2 things that we've said about Chelsea for numerous years now are we going to defend like professionals? And can we take our chances? Because we will create chances. We will create chances against any side. I'm pretty confident of that. I'm just not confident at whether we can be solid defensively and whether we can actually take them. But we're not actually a bad side. It's just 2 massive variables in football that really matter are unfortunately a little bit questionable for us, sticking the ball in the net and keeping it out the other end. But I don't know. I mean, what do you think what would constitute a good season for Chelsea?
So, I mean, of course, I'd love a good season would be winning a trophy 100%. I think we need a trophy this season, one way or another. We got, unless we get City in both rounds of both cups again really early on, then we have shown that we can be a decent cup team and kind of compete last year if we take heart from that. Conference League, you know what? A lot of people say you have to win the Conference League this season. I don't think it's going to be easy, to be perfectly honest with you. I actually do worry a little bit. I think it should be pretty straightforward in terms of, on paper, our squad should be better than all of the teams that we play, really. But I think purely because of of the stadiums that we'll visit, the atmospheres that will be there, the kind of physicality of it. I think it will be quite tricky, but I think and I expect us to get into a Conference League final. I really hope. As long as it's not Wembley, it should be all good. And I would love us to finish top 4. I would love to get back into the Champions League, but again, it's very hard to predict. But my expectations are 100% we want a trophy next season. One way or another, it needs to happen because this team needs it. It's now kind of the second or the third season of a lot of the players that we've kind of been saying, okay, potential, yeah, but we need to start seeing some output. I worry about our defensive line, but I think for the first time ever, I'm pretty confident in our front line. There's a lot of attacking options there that should be hitting the numbers. And again, I think our midfield is slowly but surely strengthening. That is a lot of investment we made last season. We didn't quite see it throughout the season because, like you said, Lavia was injured, Enzo and Caicedo kind of progressively got better, but this is now the season where it should be clicking a lot more. So I again kind of look at that and I think this year, yes, we'll be patient with a new manager, but in terms of the squad, I think there'll be less excuses. A lot of the players have absolutely got to step it up, and it's now not a case of can you come good? It needs to be can you be good? You know, game in, game out, not just show glimpses of potential and individual brilliance. You know, I'm excited about a Lavia. You definitely don't bench a Lavia who's been fit and playing in pre-season after he missed the whole of last season for injury. You continue that. You encourage his match fitness. You play him, see how he settles into that midfield. So again, there is a lot to be excited about. But I think top 4 should be a goal. It absolutely should be. But you know, I don't know for sure, but you never know. 5th could be enough for Champions League football potentially this season if we can win a trophy as well and just fight hard and just really show this identity and this kind of idea of going in the right direction and being a competitive side that doesn't draw against champions and lose to you know, relegated sides. Then cool. I think we'll be fine. But who knows?
For me, whether we're going to do it or not, we have to finish in the top 4.
Yeah,
we cannot go a third year into this project and miss the Champions League again, because otherwise
100%.
we're 3 years in and
With no
with nothing to show for it. Like we have to finish in the top 4. Like for me personally, I'd rather have a trophy than a top 4 because as a fan you celebrate the trophies and whatnot and the days out and that. But for the club needs a top 4 desperately. We have to return to the Champions League because we're still able to attract players, but the longer it goes without being in the Champions League, and you've seen it with other teams, once you're out of the Champions League for 2-3 years, that can easily become 5, 6, 7 years, like we've seen with Arsenal. You know, so we don't want to be that team that's suddenly not in the Champions League for 4 or 5 years. We have to do it. It's there for the taking. The top 2 teams are clear. City and Arsenal are the best 2 teams by miles. Liverpool under Slot is going to be a transition, but they're still comfortably better than everyone else, other than City and Arsenal. And then you're looking at United, Villa, Spurs, Newcastle, and us going for that kind of 4th spot. It's there for the taking. Like, there's no reason why we can't do it. The plus of being in the Conference League for us, right, is that because the level of opposition is so much less, certainly in the early stages, playing Thursday, Sunday, we're going to almost be able to play 2 different 11s. So we shouldn't actually have to worry too much about playing Thursday, Sunday early on, because I think we'll be using completely different starting 11 from the Thursday to the Sunday. The Conference League is a weird one. It's kind of lose-lose for us, because if you don't win it, it's an embarrassment. And then if you do win it, you don't really get the credit for it because you're the best team in there by miles. So it's kind of lose-lose. But it's great for Maresca in a sense because it's a brilliant opportunity to get your hands on a trophy. Like that is relatively straightforward to win. So it's got to be top 4 in the Conference League. That has to be the expectation at the start of the season. Anything less would be a failure, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, unless we ended up winning an FA Cup or whatever. But it's Champions League or bust for us. It really is. It's that simple now. And if things go wrong this season, I'm not blaming the manager. The players are going to have to take a lot more responsibility.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And it will lie with the ownership and the sporting directors, because that's ultimately who the responsibility is going to lie. So if we do shit this season, I'm not blaming Maresca. I'm not coming for the manager. The players we'll have to take a lot of criticism if we don't do it. And the ownership and the sporting directors that have put this whole project together, if we miss out on the Champions League again, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Would be my thing. So there's a lot riding on this season for everyone involved, the manager, the players, and the football club. Because, you know, to go 3 years without Champions League, these players on these long-term contracts are going to be thinking, I didn't sign up for this. When I was pitched this project, no one mentioned about not being in a Champions League for 3 years when I joined the football club. These guys, it's only natural to start thinking, if we do miss out on the Champions League again, it's only natural to think, well, hang on a second here. I want to play Champions League football. When's it going to happen here? Maybe I'm going to consider my options, and I'm going to go and look to go elsewhere. So not only for financial reasons, but for player satisfaction reasons, being able to attract quality players to improve the squad and the side, we need that Champions League football. With youngsters, I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue because young players are always going to want to come to Chelsea. For a lot of the players we're targeting, it's a huge step up for them. But when you're looking to get established stars and those like sort of the final piece of the jigsaw, if you don't have Champions League, you can just forget it. So we have to get it. And we have to start well. Despite all the ups and downs of last season, we should have come top four. It was 3 wins in the first 10 Premier League games, which cost us the top four in the end. We cannot have a similarly poor start. We've got to get points on the board early doors. But I just don't know if we're going to do it or not.
No, nobody does, Charlie. That's the thing. Like, if anyone in the comments can tell us if they know and can predict the future, if Chelsea will finish top four, let us know. But see, that's the thing. Like, I've been watching other fans talk about Chelsea, and they too are kind of, you know, they don't know what to expect from Chelsea as well. It's that thing where you can't really, there's not much to go off. You can't really take much from last season and the season previous because it's worlds apart. Everything has been, you know, mid, but there's been signs of goodness. And, you know, we've made it to finals and, you know, we've lost games and we've beat and almost come close to beating, you know, your Man City. So it's always just sort of been up and down. And we go through the season kind of yo-yoing between spaces and we kind of get optimistic and then it comes crashing down and, you know, a manager's on the line and then it's just like constantly different. I think one thing with this season is I want some consistency. I don't know in what form and with what exactly, but I just want some consistency at our club where we're coming to this stable kind of way of running and doing things, you know, at least with results a little bit as well, but with players as well, players consistently kind of playing for us and not being in that situation. And I know obviously injuries are hard to control and it's not something that really is often up to the player, but just seeing some kind of regular, you know, players there on the pitch that are forming this kind of identity where we know our kind of strongest 11. And like you said, I didn't really think of it that way, but you're very right that we probably will end up having two, you know, separate kind of 11s in both the Conference League and in the league or in the cups, which is really welcome because we've got a variety of players. A lot of them still need kind of developing and it means more game time. And it means that, you know, perhaps you don't need to loan some of those out because they're going to be getting their development in Europe, you know, in cups, in the league, in the best league pretty much in the world. So I think it's actually great that we've got more games because we certainly have the players for it. And like you said, the fact that we don't really know our strongest 11 is both concerning yet exciting. I don't know, and I hope that Enzo kind of figures it out earlier rather than later, because what you could get is, again, this whole kind of series of us spontaneously trying to win games, if that makes sense, where you're hoping and banking on that one individual to get us out. I really want us to see this collective kind of cohesive team this season where it's not certain individuals kind of bringing us out a tunnel. It's us as a team collectively. I think that's our biggest thing. To be fair, now thinking about it, like, the fact that we're kind of worried defensively, I don't think it's helped that we've not really established our keeper situation as well, if that makes sense, because obviously we've kind of tried Jorgensen a little bit. Sanchez has kind of been still that first kind of choice, but also you're not too sure. You still think that Enzo's kind of figuring it out. And I think that that's been pretty difficult in terms of defense kind of gaining that chemistry and that stability with the goalkeeper as well. So I think that is not helping. Certainly, I think he needs to figure it out. I think probably Sanchez does kind of instantly be number one and we see Jorgensen perhaps playing in, maybe Conference League next week, or I wouldn't even do that though, to be honest. I think it will be a situation like last season where Sanchez is number one until there is an opportunity for Jorgensen to be sort of tested, I suppose. Because
I think Jorgensen will play next week. Conference League.
So?
Yeah, Conference League first leg.
Is that surely not too quick of a chop of a change, do you think, or not really?
Are we worried about, if we've signed someone and we're worried about playing them in a Conference League qualifier against Servette, then what the fuck are we doing?
To be fair, Sanchez doesn't give me much. I'd
be shocked, right, if Sanchez started those Conference League qualifying games. I would be shocked. Like, surely that's Jorgensen all over. If
Jorgensen starts on Sunday, is that ridiculous to think?
There's no chance. No chance. If he was going to play on Sunday, he would have played against Inter last weekend. Didn't play at all.
Yeah, that's fair. That's true.
So yeah, like we'll see. There's just a lot of unknowns, really, which is kind of exciting, but also a little bit concerning as well.
Do you get top with Sanchez in goal all season in the league?
I think you can. I think you can. Yeah, because I just think we've got enough quality going forward for his position not to be too much of an issue. Sanchez is not a title-winning goalkeeper, but we're nowhere near the title, so we don't have to worry about that. But yeah, you can finish top four with Sanchez, even though he's like, I don't rate him and he's got a mistake in him and he doesn't really feel the defensive confidence. You can definitely finish top four with Robert Sanchez in goal. But I suspect that at some point next season, Jorgensen will be the number one. It's just finding that opportunity to get him in, and the Conference League will be a good opportunity for that. And then it's up to him to impress and go from there. But yeah, I would be stunned if he didn't finish the season as number one, Jorgensen. Because otherwise, what was the point in buying him?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I still really don't trust Sanchez. I didn't trust him third game in last season. I don't trust him first game this season. I hope that, he can prove us wrong, but there is just a lot of question marks there. And I think when you look at the other keepers in the league and when you look at how they've strengthened, like Liverpool have just signed Mamadashvili, haven't they?
Well, I think they're in the process of it. It's not been finalised yet.
It's not been confirmed, but I mean, that's a brilliant keeper.
I just think on the goalkeepers, I just think all the goalkeepers we've signed and all the money we've spent on keepers in the last few years, you could have just signed a fucking really good one for that money 100%. Instead of just fucking about signing 3 or 4 different keepers. Just sign one really good one and be done with it. It's a position on the pitch, like a centre forward, you can't fuck about with your goalkeepers.
No.
Sign a good goalkeeper, a top level goalkeeper, and it makes such a big difference, even if you have to slightly overpay. Look at what, like Edison, Alisson, like, pay money for top quality players and you get the results, and it's worth it, and it makes a huge difference. So like, I'm not saying that Jorgensen can't become good for us. We don't know yet, but with the money we've spent on keepers, you could have just fucking bought a really decent one for 60 odd million quid and be done with it. But let's wait and see what happens with that. But yeah, I've covered a lot. Seems like a good place to round this one out. Exciting season ahead, guys. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, whether you agree or disagree with anything that's been discussed today, and let us know what you think Chelsea are going to do this season as well. I'm sure there's a whole range of mixed opinions. I think there's a lot of people that are doom and gloom about the club. I think there's probably a few that are more positive about the scenario, but yeah, as I say, reserve judgment until we're 5-6 games in at the earliest, until we start coming to any conclusive conclusions on what this team looks like. And most importantly, we've got to get behind the manager. We've got to get behind the team. And, if things go wrong, make sure you direct your anger and thoughts or whatever at the right people, because this is not the manager's fault.
No Maresca out, people.
No Maresca out. None of this Maresca out bollocks.
Start a campaign. No Maresca out.
Just stick with him. And if we do shit, it's not on him. But yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. Nina, thanks for coming as always. Guys, make sure you smash the like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we'll catch you again in another episode soon.